This is our 12th lesson today, and today we are going to learn about the articles in English. It is a very difficult and complicated topic, so please make sure you pay full attention, and it's a very good idea to watch the whole thing in one go. I could have split this video into three, but then it wouldn't be that useful because it's the nature of this topic that needs to be understood in one go, because things are interconnected and linked together. So that's why please make sure that you watch the video full in one sitting or in one go. And I'm sorry if it is a bit too long. I'll try to make it nice and crisp. If it is a bit too long, it's because the topic demands that. It's a difficult, complicated topic, and today I'm going to give you a very comprehensive summary of the whole thing, so your life is easier. Now, these are the two most authentic books that I have used to create this presentation. So if you want to note them down and buy them or refer to them using your libraries, that's fine too. Okay, first of all, what is an article and how do we define it? So articles are words that identify a noun as a specific thing or unspecific. So when we try to specify things, we use articles, and when we try not to specify, we again use articles, but different articles. For example, these two sentences would make it clear what I'm saying. After the long day, the cup of tea tasted particularly good. So the use of article the means that it was one specific day that was long, and after that specific day you had a very specific cup of tea. Maybe somebody who you love made it for you, or it's a special way of making it, so that tasted good after that long day. But if we change this article to a, after a long day, a cup of tea and an orange tastes particularly good, now that is more like a truth, a general observation that after a long day, if you have these two things, you will enjoy it. So we are implying that any cup of tea, any orange after any long day would be okay. So that's how big difference it could make, if you could see that. So articles also act as determiners and adjectives. If you haven't watched my videos about adjectives, well, please go back and see that. Adjective is a word that describes or tells us more about a noun. So in this sense, for example, long day, day is a noun, obviously. The long day, so this is describing. A cup means one cup, so we don't know how many cups there are, but the word a tells us that it is only one cup. So it's not only determining the number, but it is also telling us more about the cup. So that's why they are determiners and adjectives. So remember one thing, in grammar you can't always say that this is this. Okay, there are sometimes no hard and fast rules. So one thing could be many. So one thing could be one word could be an adjective, it could be a determiner, it could be an article at the same time. Right, so there are two kinds of articles in English. One is indefinite article and one is definite article. So as you can see, that indefinite article is a and an, these two. Basically they are one, but because we have vowel and consonant sounds, so that's why we have two of them to deal with them. And the second one is the. The pronunciation of these articles are, I mean, it's not very important, but obviously knowledge is knowledge, so I thought to give it to you as well. So if you are using THE with a consonant, with a word that begins with a consonant, then you can pronounce it as the boy. But if the word begins with a vowel sound, then it should be pronounced as the. So the boy, the understanding. And the article a is pronounced as which is a schwa sound, a boy, but this one is pronounced as an umbrella. So once again you could see that this word begins with a vowel sound, so that's why an. Now, both of these words mean one, and both of these words are used with countable nouns. Now we look at articles a and an in a bit more detail. The indefinite articles a and an refer to something not specifically identified and frequently mentioned for the first time, but treated as one of a class. Means it is just a general mention of something without specifying it. For example, a cat means any cat. An orange means any orange. So we are not specifying that. We are not talking about a particular cat or a particular orange. So we could say a cat is a very useful pet. So it means any cat. Yeah. But if you say the cat is a useful pet, so this is grammatically fine, but semantically it is not correct. So it means that only one cat that is in our mind, or that we are referring to, is a good pet. Rest of the cats are not good, so which is not true, obviously. So as I said, that we use a with words if it is a singular, and if it starts with a consonant sound, we say a. A means one, basically. And an is used with words which are singular and they start with a vowel sound. Now, if a word begins with H and that H sound is pronounced, then we do not use a. So we do not use an with it. For example, we can say a hotel or historical novel, but we can also say historical novel. If it is historical novel, then you have to use a. But if you say an historical novel, then you can use an. So with these two words, hotel and historical, you can use a and an depending on how you pronounce it. But you cannot say an history, because history has very pronounced H sound. So this is only with those words which begin with H. For example, an article is used with the following words because the initial H is not pronounced, so they start with a vowel sound. So this is very close to, very relevant to the last slide that we just saw. So for example, we don't say hour, but if we say hour, okay, so that means H is very pronounced. So then we cannot use an, but we say hour. So a is a vowel sound. An honest person, you don't say honest person. So honest is more like an O sound, so H is almost silent here. An hour, an honest person, it is an honor. Okay, you don't say honor in the same way here, an heiress. So once again, remember that it is not the letter, it is the sound that matters. So when we teach our children in schools, we tell them normally that the vowel sounds are used with those words which begin with a vowel letter. That is wrong. Okay, an is used, article an is used with words that begin with a vowel sound, and this slide is the proof of that. Okay, so if it is a vowel sound, and vowel sounds will be a, e, i, o, u. So these are the 5 vowel sounds. If any word makes these sounds at the beginning, and it is one, it is singular, you use an with that. Now look at this thing. Look at the comparison. Some words are spelt with an initial vowel letter but pronounced as a consonant sound. In the previous slide, we saw that the word honest begins with H, which is a consonant letter, but it pronounced as O, honest and honest. But there are some words which begin with a vowel letter, but they pronounced as consonants. So they would take an article A with them. For example, European car, UNESCO official. Now the word European begins with E, but E is not pronounced. It is EU which is pronounced. UNESCO, which is U, which is pronounced. So that's why, despite the fact that both of these words, European and UNESCO, begin with vowel sounds, but they take A as their article. On the other hand, you could see these words, both of them begin with a consonant letter, but the sound is vowel. So that's why I take N, MP, and PR accents. Okay, so NMP is M is a sound, so that's why we have to use N if it is one. So now, just to summarize that, if a word begins with a vowel sound, it is one, you use N with it. If a word begins with a consonant sound and it is one, you use A with it. Okay, A and one or single. A and an mean one or single, hence use with countable nouns only. So that is only used with countable nouns. Countable nouns are the ones which you can count. For example, you can count books, you can count oranges, you can count bottles, but you cannot count milk, you cannot count salt, you cannot count sugar. So Mungo can walk 40 miles in a single day. The Wrights have 2 daughters and a son. A day or a single day, because you can count days, you can count sons. A and N are used with numerical and quantifying functions. For example, 100, a dozen, a little, a large number of. So these are the numerical words which take A and N. A and N are used in measure phrases such as half an hour, $10 a day, 60 miles an hour. So it means half an hour means half of 1 hour basically. 60 miles an hour means 60 miles in 1 hour. So these are some of the uses of these articles. We can use A and N before body parts, like the definite article the, and here are some examples. But you have to be very careful when you use A and N with body parts, because most of the time it is the article the which is used before the body parts. So for example, Sally has sprained an ankle, he has broken a leg. Okay, it could be the reason that ankles, we have 2 ankles and 2 legs, so one of the legs is broken, one of the ankles is broken, but not Roger has hurt our nose, because we only have 1 nose. So if you say Roger has hurt 1 nose, so that means Roger has got 2 noses in this case, which I mean, I don't know anybody who has got 2 noses, right? Now you have a challenge here for you. Which article would you use with MA degree? So which article would you use with this word which is highlighted? Think about it, and if you want to leave comments in the comment section, please let me know. A and N with a proper noun. So sometimes it is possible to use A and N with a proper noun, which is a name of a person. For example, Mr. Johnson came to see you last night. So that means that somebody who came and his name was Mr. Johnson, the person who is saying this sentence does not know Mr. Johnson. So it is a person giving his name as a certain type of person who called himself Mr. Johnson. So then you can use that in that situation. You can use them with illnesses. Indefinite articles cannot normally be omitted with the and plague, except in the fixed expressions catch cold. Indefinite article is required with cold, fever, and temperature. So these are some of the illnesses that you can use indefinite articles. For example, our daughter had a terrible cold last week. So although cold is uncountable, well, you can still use it, because this is how these phrases are used. The rule says that with these three illnesses you can use that. I have a fever. Headache is always a count noun. I have a splitting headache this morning. Count noun means countable nouns. Other nouns formed from ache are treated as non-count or not countable or uncountable when they denote a condition. So they do not take indefinite article. For example, nuts give me toothache. You can't say nuts give me a toothache. It's only the headache which is considered as a countable noun, so you can use. So the summary is that you can use a with cold, fever and temperature. Now that was the end of an article. We are going to now talk about the article the, which is the definite article. And I tell you definitely this is very interesting and at the same time very complex, very complicated and difficult. So please make sure you take a break, stop the video, have some tea or coffee, and then come back, because you need to have some sugar level to understand article the. Right, so there are two things that I would like to mention here. Now, in some situations, article the must be used, so that is called inclusion. And in some situations, article the must not be used, so that is called omission. So first of all, we will study the inclusion aspect of article the. It means that any examples that we see on the next slides will include the, means we have to use the with different types of things. Okay, so let's have a look at that. The definite article the is used to mark the phrase it introduces as definite, which means that we are referring to something which can be identified uniquely by the speaker and the hearer. For example, the guests who came last night were a real pleasure. So that means we are talking about specific guests, not any guest. These are only those guests who came last night. Maybe 2 months ago, some people came to our house, they were guests, but they were extremely horrible. We are not talking about them. We are talking about the ones who came last night. Okay, so you could see there the words the guests means we are speaking or talking about a specific number of guests. The book that I gave you was my favorite. So it's a specific book, not any. I didn't give you any book. The book that I gave you was my favorite. For example, I like Wuthering Heights, I like Hamlet, I like any other classical book. For example, Charles Dickens's Great Expectations. So this is my favorite book. So the book that I gave you means that I gave you a specific book, a special book, not any book. So that's how the word the changes the meaning and the tone. Article the is always used with body parts, except there are exceptions. In English there are exceptions, obviously. So that's why sometimes it is very difficult. So for example, Mary banged herself on the forehead. So forehead is a body part, so the is used. They pulled her by the hair. So they pulled her by the hair. Hair is a body part. Everyone gave us a pat on the back. The back is a body part, so that's why the is used. But when possessive pronoun is used, the is omitted. Okay, so for example, I shook his hand. Now the word his is a possessive pronoun. Now if you have a possessive pronoun, soon before and then soon after that you have the body part, then you cannot use the, because either you would use the or you would use the possessive pronoun. She patted him on his shoulder. So his is a possessive pronoun. Now if you don't want to use that, so we would say she patted him on the shoulder. Now I normally tell my students that if you are in doubt whether to use the or no, then what you do is use a possessive pronoun. Okay, so you get rid of that confusion. Use of the in immediate situations. So these are some examples which will explain them. The roses are very beautiful. It means that somebody is standing in a garden. They are looking at the garden, at the roses, and they are saying, okay, the roses are, means these roses that I am looking at now are very beautiful. So this is called immediate situation. Have you visited the castle, said in a given town? So it is a specific town that the speaker is standing in, and he or she is asking. I missed both the lectures this morning. It is said by one student to another. Okay, so in a very specific situation, both the lectures. Here, try to focus on the use of the. Have you fed the cat? Said in a domestic context. So it is not about any cat. It is not about any stray cat or cat in a zoo, or no. It is the cat which is one of the members of that house. Okay, so somebody maybe one of the siblings is saying it to other about their pet cat. These are the pistons. The pistons explaining the engine of a car. So somebody is giving a lecture on the engine of a car, and he or she is pointing. So these are the pistons. The pistons. So it means specific, not any. In all these situations, both the speaker and the hearer know what is being discussed. They wouldn't say, okay, which pistons are you talking about? Because the other person is looking at them. The is used with the unique objects in the universe, or any unique object. For example, the North Pole, the Earth, the sea, the stars, the cosmos, the Renaissance. So all of these are unique objects. Unique means that there is no other example of these things either in the universe or in the world. So that's why they take the. With general knowledge, which everyone is expected to know. So when we are talking about something which is a kind of universal truth or general knowledge, and we don't have to explain, oh, this is this, this is that, we are talking about, no, then you have to use the. For example, the Prime Minister. So let's say if I'm talking about the Prime Minister of the UK, so I would say the Prime Minister is doing this and doing that. So my listener knows which Prime Minister I'm talking about. So if he or she knows, then I have to use the. Okay, if I say prime ministers should be doing this and that, so it means that I'm just speaking in a general tone, that if whosoever is the prime minister of any country, they should do these. The airlines, specific, the last war, the United States, the president. So in the same way, the prime minister and the president. So we expect our listener to know who we are talking about. So if that's the situation, then we have to use the. Anaphoric reference is direct. Article the is used when something is mentioned again in the text directly. For example, John bought a TV and a video recorder, but he returned the video recorder. Now, if you look at this thing, a TV and a video recorder, this was their first mention. Okay. For anaphoric means something that has been mentioned before, and second time when it is mentioned, it should be specific. But he returned the video recorder. Now, if I ask you the question, which video recorder that he returned, it was this video recorder. Okay, so now we are not talking about any specific any recorder. We are talking about this video recorder that we just mentioned before. Okay, so it is a specific one. It is a special one. Okay, anaphoric reference is indirect. Article the is used when something is mentioned again, referred to in the text, but indirectly. The first example was directly. So for example, I bought a video recorder and the video recorder. Here it is indirect. For example, John bought a bicycle. When he rode it, one of the wheels came off. No. Whose wheel came off? This bicycle's. So see that this is highlighted, this is highlighted, means when we are talking about this, the wheels, it means we are talking about this bike. So this is indirect reference. So that should be specific, that should have the, because we are not talking about any wheel. We are talking about this bicycle's wheel. In this case, the wheels refer back to the bicycle that was bought, which is an indirect reference to the bicycle. The direct reference would be it. Okay. Reference to an institution. Article the is sometimes used in reference to an institution. For example, my sister goes to the theater every month. Now, this is a kind of institution. It's a kind of building. It's a kind of place where he or she is working. So that's how we use it. By situational references, it may mean a particular theater which my sister attends regularly. Okay, but a more likely meaning is that my sister does not necessarily confine her theater going to one building. Okay, the theater refers to the theater as an institution, so it would be inappropriate to ask which theater. Okay, so it's an institution. It's a kind of thing which is more like a university, a spot where you go and learn things. The same rule applies to the news, the radios, the television, the papers, the press, etc., referring to the aspects of mass communication. So these are specific institutions, and when we talk about them, we use the with them. Article the is used with these specific words. Okay, now there are no rules to explain, but you just need to remember that article the is used. First, when is the first flight? See that? The and then first. Next, last, same. You can pause the video and you can have a look at this to understand that these words use the, and these are some of the examples. With nationalities, ethnic groups, and groups of people, article the is used with plural nouns phrases in two special cases. For example, nationality nouns, the Chinese, the English. The Chinese means the Chinese people, the English means the English people, not the language. Phrases with an adjective head referring to a group of people, the unemployed, the blind, the rich. The unemployed, so you could see that all of them are used in singular. So the unemployed means every unemployed person. It's a group of people. The blind means every blind person. It's a group of the blind people. The rich means all of the rich people. It's a group. With proper nouns, article the is used with a proper noun to denote that the subject has the qualities of a person name, of the person name. For example, excuse me, he is the Shakespeare of his time. He is the Napoleon of finance. Now, Shakespeare is known to be the greatest playwright of all time, and Napoleon is named to be one of the most successful generals in military history. So if we say he is the Shakespeare of his time, it means that he is as good as Shakespeare, or he dominates in literature in this age or in his age as Shakespeare dominated in his age and all times. So Shakespeare is a proper noun. Normally it is not allowed to use the with a proper noun, but this time we are comparing this person with Shakespeare, or we are making him a Shakespeare. It's a kind of metaphorical reference, so that's when we use the with the proper noun. Article the is used with the names of families, for example, the Smiths, the Shakespeares. When we say that the Shakespeares were surprised by the religious tension in 16th century, so it means that not only William Shakespeare, John Shakespeare, Susanna Shakespeare, all of them, okay, all of them, the family members. The Smiths means all of the Smith family. field of an endeavor. So it's a kind of profession. So article the is used when you are specifying the field of endeavor or profession. For example, the law, the film industry, the stage. So these are different professions, so you have to use the with them. With decade or lifespan, article the is used with the plural form of numeral denoting a specific decade of a century or lifespan. For example, rural life in the 20s was very hard indeed. In the 60s, in the 50s, in the 20s, in the early 19th century. So when you are talking about the decade, is 20s, it's a 10-year time. 30s, 10 years, means from 20s would be 20, 21 to 30. So that is the whole 10 years. So that's when you use the with them. Article the is used with geographical locations or elements. For example, rivers, the Thames; gulfs, the Persian Gulf; seas, the Arabian Sea; oceans, the Atlantic Ocean; mountain ranges. Please make sure you are very careful. We would be talking about not using the when we come to the next section, but we use the with the mountain range, or we don't use the with a single mountain. For example, the Himalayas, the Alps, because it's a mountain range. But if we talk about Everest, we don't say the Mount Everest, we say Mount Everest, not the. Groups of islands and canals and deserts and plural names of countries. The Netherlands, it's a group of countries, groups of you could say islands or small pieces of land. And then for example, the West Indies, it's a group of small islands together and make one country. So you could you have to use the with them. Article the is not used before the names of single mountains, single islands and lakes. It should be in omission, but because it is very close to the previous slide, so that's why I have included. So when you say I want to climb Mount Everest, not I want to climb the Mount Everest. Greenland is the name of an island, Ceylon, and Windermere Lake, and Loch Ness is a lake. So these are individual single islands or lakes or mountains, so we don't use the with them. With the names of books, newspapers and magazines, article the is always used. For example, the Quran, the Bible, the Guardian. So these are holy scriptures and this is the newspaper, so we have to use them, the with them. It is not used with the names of the books if the qualities or abstract nouns are titles. So this is very interesting. Now I have read Pride and Prejudice. Now Pride and Prejudice is the name of a book, but both Pride and Prejudice are abstract nouns, or you could say names of feelings and emotions, okay, or qualities. So if the title of a book is a feeling or emotion or an abstract noun or any quality, for example bravery, for example love, okay, so then you don't use the with the title of the book. The rule is that the books take the, but this book won't take the because the title is emotions. Great Expectations is a wonderful novel. Now Great Expectations is an abstract noun, so it shouldn't take the as we do in this case. With ships and roads, article the is used with the names of ships whether they start with proper noun or a common noun. Now in case of books that we saw in the previous slide, it's a different story. Now here we have to use the with the names of ships and roads whether they are proper nouns or common nouns. The Titanic, for example, the Victory, these are names of ships. The roads, the Queen's Road, the London Road. Now London is a proper noun, okay, and if you say I want to go to London, we don't say I want to go to the London, but this is the name of the road. So that's why even if it is a proper noun here, we have to use the with it. With sea and wind, article the is generally used before the word sea and wind when no adjective precedes them. That's the key. Okay, for example, the sea was calm. Okay, but if we say the great sea was calm, then it's not used. The wind was strong. Okay, so this um, this rule only talks about sea and wind when no adjective precedes them. With the names of buildings, for example, school, mosque, church, hospital, when the buildings of these institutions are referred to, for example, now that is very, very interesting. He went to school means he went to school for the purpose of education. That's the normal purpose of education, of a school. He went to the school means for paying a visit to the building, means this is not for any educational purposes. You might go to maybe apply for a job, or you might go to see the building itself. But if you go to learn in lessons, then it would be he went to school or she went to school, not the school. Be in or go to town, bed, hospital, prison. Now you don't use the with these words if you are in the town or if you go to the town. With superlative degrees of adjectives, now that is a very simple, straightforward rule. Whenever you have to use the superlative degree of an adjective, for example, the tallest, okay, so then you excuse me, then you use the. Now in my previous video when I talked about the adjective, we have 3 degrees of adjective. The last one or the third one is the superlative, and you can tell from the use of the that this is an adjective and this is the superlative degree. So it is a direct comparison. He is the tallest of all. It is not used when direct comparison is not made. For example, you are most welcome. Now we are not comparing that. Okay, so you are welcome in this much degree, that person was welcome in that much degree, this person, that person, and now one of those person is the most welcome. No, we don't do that. Whosoever comes, we would say you are most welcome, because we are not comparing. Okay, we are not comparing this welcome, the feelings of welcome, to anything else. So if it is a direct comparison, because he is the tallest of all, means that we are looking at other people's height as well. Okay, so but this guy is the tallest of all of other guys, but here we are not comparing with anyone else, so this is indirect. This is direct comparison. With superlative and possessive, article the is not used when an adjective in the superlative degree is preceded by a possessive pronoun. I mean, sometimes the rules are difficult to understand. You look at the examples and then you would see. Our greatest asset is knowledge, not beauty. Now, in the previous slide, we learned that if we have the superlative of an adjective, then we have to use the before it. But if we have a possessive pronoun, which is this one, her, this is a possessive pronoun. So if a possessive pronoun is used before the superlative degree of an adjective, then the is not used. He is our most beloved leader. So for example, our most is the superlative, our is a possessive pronoun. Their worst fears, worst is the superlative, and this is a possessive pronoun. So in that case, article the would not be used. Article the is an adverb. Article the is used as an adverb in these sentences, like, for example, the sooner you come, the better it will be. The easier the question, the quicker the reply. So these are very specific type of structures. And remember that an adverb is a word or phrase that modifies an adjective, a verb, or another adverb. So remember, when there is a comparison made between two things, the sooner you come, the better it will be, the easier the question, the quicker the reply. So then you use the with both of these structures, both of these phrases. To represent the whole class. That's very interesting. Article the is used before the positive degree of adjective to represent the whole class. For example, the rich. We have touched on this before as well, but now in a bit more detail. The rich means that every rich person, and that should stay singular. A singular word, a singular adjective in positive degree with the represents the whole class. The brave means every brave person. The honest, every honest person. So for example, if I say the honest must come forward and contribute to the economy of this country, it means I am asking every honest person. Okay, every honest person is represented in this, the honest. These are treated like plurals, so the rich, not the rich is. So the rich are. Okay, the rich are. So these are plurals. It is used before a common noun to represent the whole class, and this common noun with the is treated as singular. For example, the dog is a faithful animal. Now this time the dog means the whole class. So when we say the dog is a faithful animal, it means that every dog is a faithful animal. Okay, now this would be treated as singular, but because the rich, and rich is an adjective, dog is a noun. So if we have an adjective with the, it should be treated as plural. The rich are responsible. The dog is, because it's a noun. So try to see the difference between these two. We have to use the with the adjective to represent the whole class. We have to use a singular noun with the to represent the whole class. Article the is not used with man and woman when the whole class is meant. For example, man is mortal. Woman is the symbol of kindness. Okay, so man is mortal includes both women and men. Basically, this is the old way of saying things, but anyhow, you don't use the when you mean the whole class. With directions, very simple. When you are writing directions or talking about them, you use the. So for example, in the north, in the south, in the west. But know the if directions are part of proper names. For example, South Africa. Now here the word south is not a direction, it's a name of a country. West Germany. So it doesn't mean that you start traveling to the west. No, West Germany is the name of a country. So know the with this. Right. Now so far what we have studied was those instances, those examples where we must use the. You might have noticed that sometimes I also mention that the should not be used because those were very close examples. For example, when I said that you have to use the with the names of mountain ranges, but you cannot use the with a single mountain. That was very, very close. So that's why very relevant, I would say. That's why I mentioned. But now here, these are those instances, in those situations in which the must not be used. Okay, so let's have a look at them. So this is called a mission. With plural count nouns means countable nouns, and with non-countable nouns the indefinite article does not occur. The zero article is used. So when we don't use the, it means zero article. Even when we don't use a and an, it is zero article. Zero article means that no article. Have you ever eaten roasted chestnuts? Milk is good for you. Do you like folk music? Okay, now if you look at that, chestnuts, roasted chestnuts, we don't have the with that. Milk, we don't have the with that. And folk music, no the. Sometimes you can use some in place of zero articles. For example, would you like some coffee? We cannot use the with coffee, but we can use some. Okay, so now we talked about countable nouns and non-count nouns. So chestnut is a countable noun, milk is uncountable, folk music is non-countable. So these are some of the rules. With the names of games, you cannot use with the names of games or sports, whatever you call them. Article D is not used before the names of games. For example, he plays golf. Okay, he loves football. You can't say she loves the football. No. With work and office, article D is not used with work when it means the place of work, and office when it means to hold a position, usually a political position. Now these two words, work and office, make sure you understand. If you mean the place of work with work, then you don't use the. For example, she is at work means she is at the place of work, or she's in the office basically. So you don't use the with that work. While in office, as an MP, he always spoke for his people. While in office, it is not the office, the room where he goes and sits. It is the position. It is the political position. For example, he is an MP or he is an education minister. Now, education minister, wherever he sits, is education minister. So it is the position, not the office as a physical entity. But if office means place of work, it needs article the. For example, he is in the office now. Okay, so when we say office and we mean the room, okay, or the place of work, then we have to use the. Why? Because we do not use, this is very strange, we do not use the with work if it is a place of work. Well, we use the with office if it is a place of work. Okay, so these are strange things. With official forms, determiners, the, your, etc. are frequently omitted in official forms. For example, please send the required items: birth certificate, passport, correct fee. Now, these words should have taken the, but we don't use them when we write them as forms, when we mention forms with these words. Zero articles in certain idioms and phrasal verbs. Now, you must remember that if you are using idioms and phrasal verbs, you have to use them as they are. You cannot change, you cannot add, you cannot subtract anything. So no article is used in certain idioms, even if that apparently seems against the defined principles. That means an idiom or a phrasal verb must be written as it is. Whether it looks incorrect, don't care about that. You have to write it like that. For example, at dinner, it should be at the dinner, but at sea, at the sea. But we don't say that because these are the phrasal verbs. These are idioms. For example, shake hands. Okay, I want to shake hands. So we have read that we use article the before the names of body parts. Hands is body parts, but we don't use it because it is the phrasal verb, so it should stay as it is. With means of transport, article the is not used particularly after these following by. Now, means of transport, look at that. If you are traveling by a car or boat or train or plane, you don't use I travel by train, I travel by boat, I travel by. If you have by, you don't use any article. But I love the car or prefer the car, choose the boat, take a train. So we use articles here, but if we have the word by and we are talking about traveling, then we don't use any articles with this, including article the. With means of communication, it's the same as we talked about the means of transport. If you communicate by radio, you don't use article the here. But if you talk on the radio, she's on the phone, put a letter in the post. See that radio, phone, post, they have the here. But when we talk about communicating using by, we don't use articles. Times of the day and night. Article the is not used particularly after at, by, after, and before. So you can pause this video and you can have a look at this. For example, at dawn or at daybreak. Watch the dawn. So compare. So see that when we use at, by, after, and before with the times, then we don't use the. At sunset, all right, at night, or by night, at dusk, or twilight, whatever. With abstract and material nouns, article the is not used with abstract and material nouns except when they are used as particularized common nouns. For example, we love peace. Now the word peace is an abstract noun. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, you cannot smell it. Abstract noun is a noun that you can just feel. It's an idea, it's an emotion, it's not physical. So you cannot use the with such. Okay, now if it is physical, you can touch it, smell it, but if it is a material, okay, then you cannot use article the with that as well. For example, gold is a precious metal. Now gold is, you can touch it, you can see it, but it's a material thing. Okay, so that's why you cannot use the with that. But the peace between the countries was short-lived. So now here the peace means agreement or a treaty. So that's the situation. Now the word peace here does not mean the abstract noun. So it means that they signed probably a document, a treaty, or an agreement that we wouldn't fight. Okay, but then that was broken. So if that is the situation, then we have to say the peace between the countries was short-lived and broken. With seasons, article the is usually but not always omitted when referring to seasons generally, as distinct from referring to a particular part of a particular year. For example, when we say winter is coming, so we don't say the winter is coming, summer is coming. Okay, in summer, spring, or in autumn. We don't say in the summer, in the spring. But with reference to a particular season, the article is used. The spring of last year was cold. So now if we say spring was cold, we don't know which one. Now we are trying to specify the spring of last year. It is not any spring in any century. It is the spring last year. That was last year, for example, 2023. So then we have to use the. Anytime we specify things, we use the. With calendar times and seasonal climate, article the is used with calendar time when calendar time is denoted. It is not used when seasonal climate is denoted. For example, the winter of 1963 was an exciting time. So that is a calendar time. You could see that. The winter of 1963. Winter in 1963 was not like the last winter. Now, the winter of 1963 was an exciting, it was an means calendar time. The winter, we know that, December. Winter in 1963 was not like the last winter. It's a season. So the whole season starting in September, October, November, December, January, February. So the whole season we are talking about. So in that situation, we don't use the with that. With meals, article the is not used with meals as an institution, but the can be used for meals that need to be singled out. For example, where are we having dinner tonight? So it is dinner, it's an idea, it's a concept. Where are we having dinner tonight? The dinner after his retirement party was quite lavish. Now this dinner means a situation. Okay, so this dinner means an occasion. So that is a very specific time occasion, especially after the retirement, when it says so stay for breakfast. um, these are all meals: lunch, tea, supper, dinner. So we don't have the. But if we make them into an occasion or into a situation, then we have to use the with them. With illnesses, article the is normally not used with illnesses. For example, these illnesses: anemia, diabetes, influenza, pneumonia. So you don't use the with the names of diseases or illnesses. But the is often used in a more traditional style of speech for some well-known infectious diseases in place. For example, the flu, the measles, the mumps, okay, the Black Death. So these are plagues, or these are specific infectious diseases. But these are illnesses. So we don't use the with them, but we use the with them. Parallel structure. Article the is not used where two nouns are placed together in a parallel structure. For example, arm in arm. Now, I hope you remember that we learned that if we mention a body part, we have to use the. Now, arm and arm, both body parts; face, body parts. We don't use that. We don't use the in this structure. Why? Because two nouns are placed together in a parallel structure. So that's the rule. Arm in arm, face to face, day by day, hand in hand. Again, body part, eye to eye. Okay, I see eye to eye with you, mile upon mile. So this structure does not take the. Right. So that was all about articles. I can understand that I tried to run through this whole presentation because if I started discussing things in a bit more detail, then it would have taken us 2 hours or probably more. So what you can do is you look at the slides, you can stop the video, read everything carefully, and listen to what I say, and then try to think about it. Okay, I can explain a bit more. I can go into more detail with more examples, but then that would have taken us a very, very long time. So this, what I have done is I have given you all the, you could say, gems from different books, especially those two most authentic books. Now, this could be your reference. Use it as a reference video or a reference material. I mean, you can find different examples, but these are some of the uses of article the, article a, and article an. Remember one thing: in English, there are only 3 articles: a, and the. A and an are indefinite articles, and the is a definite article. I wish you all the best. If you have any questions, please let me know and write in the comments section, and I'll try to answer you as soon as possible. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. Bye.